Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Buffalo, we have waited years for this conversation, and today we are finally having it. Welcome back to the Bills Report, the channel that goes deeper than the headlines and straight into the heart of everything Buffalo Bills. Ever since the Stephon Diggs trade shook this franchise to its core, there has been one question hanging over Orchard Park like a dark cloud that just won't move. Do the Buffalo Bills actually have enough at wide receiver to support the most electric quarterback in football? Today, that question finally has a real answer walking through the door wearing number 2, carrying 8 seasons of NFL production and a whole lot of unfinished business. His name is DJ Moore. And folks, this story has everything: hope, heartbreak, a health scare that could derail the whole operation, a hidden gem getting a second chance, and a mystery player who might be sitting by the phone right now waiting for Buffalo to call. Let's get into it. Let's start with the headliner, because there is no bigger storyline in Buffalo this offseason than the arrival of DJ Moore. Whether you think the Bills paid too steep a price in the trade or handed out too big of a contract, one thing is undeniable. This is Brandon Beane's biggest, boldest swing yet at finally putting this multi-year receiver question to rest. And when you actually pull back the curtain on DJ Moore's career, the numbers tell a story that should make every single Bills fan sit up straight. 8 NFL seasons, over 8,200 career receiving yards. That works out to more than 1,000 yards a season on average for nearly a decade. 608 career receptions, 41 career touchdowns. This is not a gamble on potential. This is a proven, established, veteran-caliber wide receiver, and here's the twist that makes his story so compelling. Almost none of that production came with anything close to a stable, competent quarterback throwing him the football. Let's take a little trip down memory lane, because this is where the DJ Moore story gets genuinely heartbreaking. His rookie season in 2018, Cam Newton in the absolute final stretch of his Carolina career. Moore managed 788 yards anyway. The next year, it was Kyle Allen, a backup quarterback thrust into duty, and Moore still cracked 1,175 yards. The year after that, Teddy Bridgewater and Moore hit 1,193 yards. Then came a carousel of Sam Darnold before his big career revival, and a random late-career Cam Newton cameo, and Moore still found a way to 1,157 yards. Then a pre-breakout Baker Mayfield, a still-figuring-it-out Sam Darnold, and journeyman P.J. Walker and Moore posted 888 yards. Then a trade to Chicago where he caught passes from Justin Fields, a quarterback nobody in the league wants to start for them anymore, and somehow racked up a career-best 1,364 yards. Then a rookie Caleb Williams in 2024, good for 966 yards. And finally last season, a still-developing Caleb Williams under a brand-new coaching staff, and Moore posted a career-low 682 yards. Now here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. Even in that career-low season, DJ Moore was still the second most productive pass catcher on his entire team, trailing only a standout rookie tight end. He outproduced every other wide receiver on that roster. Despite the down year, despite the chemistry issues that clearly existed between him and his young quarterback, the talent never actually left the building. The opportunity did. And here's a stat that should make Bills fans downright giddy about what's coming. Among the 115 receivers and tight ends across the entire NFL who ran 200 or more routes last season, DJ Moore's catchable target rate ranked a shocking 89th out of 115. That means the football simply wasn't arriving where it needed to be. Nearly 1 out of every 10 targets thrown his way. This wasn't a talent problem. This was an opportunity problem. And for the first time in his 8-year career, DJ Moore is about to play with a quarterback who doesn't have a figuring-it-out tag attached to his name. He's about to play with Josh Allen, unquestionably the best quarterback he has ever had throwing him the football. And on top of all that production, on top of all that unrealized upside, there's one more thing that should make Buffalo fans fall even more in love with this signing: availability. DJ Moore has missed just 2 games in his entire career. 2. 1 due to a concussion, 1 due to COVID. That's it. 131 games played out of a possible 133. In a league where receivers are dropping like flies to soft tissue injuries and load management, DJ Moore simply shows up every single week ready to play. Add in a genuinely complete skill set, vertical speed, dangerous after the catch, polished route running, strong hands, and legitimate size, and you are looking at a true #1 receiver finally walking into Buffalo's building. But DJ Moore isn't walking in alone, and that's where this story gets even more exciting. Buffalo also drafted Skyler in the 4th round out of UConn, a dynamic playmaker with serious yards after catch juice and legitimate route running upside. Nobody is expecting a massive rookie workload here, but the belief is that within a couple of seasons, this kid could become a genuine catalyst for the entire passing offense, bringing a skill set that's simply different from anything else currently in that receiver room. And then there's the reimagining of a player Bills fans already know and love, Khalil Shakir. Buckle up, because the stat we're about to share might be one of the most jaw-dropping numbers of this entire offseason. Over the last 20 years, 2 full decades of NFL football, 752 different wide receivers have posted 90 or more targets in a single season. Khalil Shakir qualified for that club last year. And out of all 752 of those receiver seasons, spanning 20 years of football, Khalil Shakir posted the lowest average depth of target of any of them, just 3. 7 air yards per target. Let that number sink in. 752 seasons of data, and Shakir's usage was the single most conservative of the entire group. And it got worse as the season wore on. In the first 9 weeks, Shakir was averaging a strong 7.25 yards per target. By the back half of the season, that number collapsed all the way down to 2.6 yards per target. The role became so predictable, so limited, that defenses simply stopped respecting anything Shakir might do more than a few yards past the line of scrimmage. And here's the maddening part. This is a player with a genuinely complete skill set. He can run every route on the tree. He's got legitimate hands, ball skills, and enough juice to threaten a defense vertically. He does not need to be manufactured touches through screens and quick game to be effective. He's capable of so much more, and last season, he simply wasn't asked to show it. There's real reason for optimism here, though, because the new coaching staff seems to know exactly what they've got in him. At this year's NFL Scouting Combine, new offensive coordinator Joe Brady specifically singled Shakir out, calling him one of the best players on the entire roster, saying he can line up both inside and outside, and making it clear that every single season for Shakir doesn't need to look identical to the last. That's a coach essentially promising Bills Mafia that the days of Shakir as a glorified checkdown machine might finally be over, that he'll get his crossers, his slot fades, his opportunities to work the middle of the field and threaten a defense the way his talent actually allows. Let him be that guy. Let him do what he's capable of doing. And if DJ Moore's arrival helps take some defensive attention off Shakir in the process, this receiver room could look completely different than it did a season ago. There's one more storyline fueling the excitement here, and it involves 2 players who are both firmly on notice heading into 2026, Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer. Let's start with Coleman, because year 3 of his career is shaping up to be a real crossroads moment. His rookie season started with real promise. His first 8 games had Bills fans dreaming about a true difference maker, before an injury derailed things, and last season was, to put it plainly, a disappointment. It wasn't just the lack of production. There were very visible, very real signs of frustration from both head coach Sean McDermott and Josh Allen regarding Coleman's approach and preparation. And look, when your quarterback and your head coach are visibly frustrated with you on a football field, that's not nothing, that's a signal. The silver lining here is that the new coaching staff, led by Joe Brady, has been openly complimentary of Coleman's potential, even suggesting that Brady simply becoming head coach could be the spark this young receiver needs. There's urgency here, real urgency, for Coleman to have a bounce-back year and get his career back on track. Now let's talk about the storyline that could quietly determine everything about how this receiver room actually functions in 2026, the health of Josh Palmer. And folks, this one is genuinely concerning. Palmer's skill set has never been the issue. He is, by any objective measure, an outstanding route runner, the kind of technician that makes life easier on a quarterback. The problem has always been staying on the field. Just look at the injury log. In 2022, a concussion cost him a game. In 2023, a right knee injury cost him 6 games plus a separate concussion. In 2024, an elbow injury and a foot injury combined to cost him 3 games. And last season, an ankle injury that cost him 6 games and ultimately landed him on injured reserve to end the year. Here's the part that should really worry you. As of this spring's OTAs, Palmer was still working off to the side, and as far as anyone knows, there was no surgery involved. That means we are talking about roughly 6 months removed from the original injury, and he's still not practicing in full. Maybe that's simply cautious load management, with the real target being a full return for training camp and preseason. But here's the cold, hard truth of the NFL. The offense doesn't wait for anybody. Every single practice rep that isn't going to Josh Palmer is going to somebody else, and that somebody else is building chemistry, building trust, and building a role that Palmer may struggle to reclaim even once he's fully healthy. And this is where the receiver room conversation gets genuinely complicated, because Josh Palmer's uncertain availability threatens to blow up Buffalo's most important offensive formation. Here's a stat that might surprise you. Despite Buffalo's reputation as a tight end heavy football team, their number 1 personnel grouping last season was still 3 wide receivers on the field. Known as 11 personnel, used on a whopping 61% of offensive snaps. That's not just Buffalo's top formation. Across the entire NFL, 3 receiver sets remain the most common formation for the vast majority of teams. So when you ask who Buffalo's best 3 receivers actually are in that all-important package, DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir lock up 2 of those spots immediately. But who's the third? If Josh Palmer isn't healthy and available, that spotlight swings directly onto Keon Coleman, a player who, through 2 NFL seasons, has given Bills fans plenty of reasons to be nervous about exactly that scenario. There is a fascinating alternate path here too, though. Some believe Buffalo's true best 11 personnel grouping might not be 3 traditional receivers at all, but rather DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox, using Kincaid's versatility to line up in the slot or split out wide, essentially disguising a heavier personnel grouping as a spread look. It's the kind of scheme flexibility that could let Buffalo dictate matchups to opposing defenses regardless of who's technically on the field. But it also underscores just how much uncertainty still surrounds the traditional receiver core beyond the top 2 names. So now let's get into the mystery box, the questions nobody in Buffalo has definitive answers to yet, but that are going to shape this entire receiver room as the season approaches. First, are DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir about to become legitimate target hogs in this offense? The belief here is that Buffalo will lean on 3 primary weapons in the passing game: Dalton Kincaid, DJ Moore, and Khalil Shakir, with each of them potentially challenging for somewhere between 90 and 120 targets on the season. If that holds true, everyone else in this offense is fighting over the scraps, likely something in the range of 200 to 250 combined targets for the rest of the receiving core. That would represent a fairly dramatic concentration of the offense around just 3 names, and it raises a real question about how much romantic upside actually exists for Coleman, Palmer, and rookie Skyler if the target distribution really does skew that heavily. Next mystery. Exactly how many receivers does this roster carry into the season? The number is likely at least 5, with a real chance it climbs to 6. DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, Skyler Bell, Keon Coleman, and Josh Palmer feel like the 5 safest bets to make this roster. But if there's room for a 6th name, the battle for that spot is genuinely fascinating. Mecole Hardman brings blazing speed and some punt return experience, but he also brings a well-documented history of costly, back-breaking mistakes, muffed punts, and fumbles at some of the worst possible moments in some of Buffalo's biggest playoff games. That kind of track record is a tough thing to simply forgive, no matter how much juice a player has in the open field. Trent Sherfield, on the other hand, offers something far less flashy but arguably more valuable for a depth spot: legitimately strong special teams play and reliable blocking. The exact traits you want out of your 6th wide receiver. Jalen Virgil brings kick coverage and blocking value, while Devin Tompkins offers a small, explosive frame with some NFL punt return experience and even a handful of career catches. 4 names, realistically fighting for one single roster spot, and that battle is going to be one of the most entertaining subplots of the entire training camp. Then there's the elephant in the room. Is Josh Palmer's roster spot even safe? Buffalo does have avenues to move on if his recovery drags or his role never solidifies, a low-cost trade for modest draft pick compensation, or even an outright release, with the primary benefit being cap relief rather than any kind of return. It might sound unthinkable given how much promise Palmer flashed when healthy, but in today's NFL, availability is currency, and Palmer has struggled badly to spend it. And that leads directly into arguably the juiciest name floating around Buffalo's receiver room discussion right now. Is a Brandon Cooks reunion inevitable? Cooks has been vocal on multiple occasions about his desire to return to Buffalo. The question isn't really if the door is open, it's when he might walk back through it. Right before camp? During camp? Sitting by the phone in case of an injury during the season? There's real intrigue here, because Cooks might be the best pure vertical separator this offense has employed since the John Brown days. Sure, there was inconsistency in his limited run with the Bills last time around, but consider the circumstances. A receiver dropped into a new offense late in the season, running the least efficient route concept in football, the deep ball, with a quarterback he'd barely had time to build chemistry with. Give that pairing an actual offseason and training camp to develop rapport, and the outlook could look very different. Nobody's suggesting Brandon Cooks becomes a 75-target focal point of this offense, but 30 to 50 targets as a legitimate field stretcher? That's a genuinely intriguing proposition, and it feels like only a matter of time before Buffalo makes that call. Finally, there's the story of Tyrell Shavers, and it's one of the more bittersweet subplots heading into this season. Shavers tore his ankle late last season, an injury so severe he actually finished the game on it before the full extent became clear. He meant a great deal to this team as a blocker and special teamer, and there were genuine signs he was starting to develop as a legitimate receiving option as well. Now, the recovery timeline is the whole story. Is this a lost year for him? Does he come back late in the season? Or is 2026 essentially a wash, with a real return not happening until 2027? Complicating matters further, Shavers won't have the benefit of a normal training camp or preseason ramp up to work his way back into football shape. Whenever he does return, it's going to be a much colder restart than most players get. How Buffalo manages that timeline and whether the team's depth situation forces his hand earlier than ideal is going to be a storyline worth tracking all season long. So here's where all of this leaves Buffalo's wide receiver room heading into 2026, a genuine mixture of excitement and uncertainty unlike almost any position group on this roster. DJ Moore brings a proven, durable, multifaceted number 1 receiver finally paired with an elite quarterback for the first time in his career. Khalil Shakir is primed for a role expansion that could unlock a full route tree we simply haven't seen from him yet. Skyler Bell brings juice and long-term upside as a developmental piece. And then there's the uncertainty, Josh Palmer's health casting a shadow over the entire 11 personnel package, Keon Coleman needing to finally deliver on his physical talent. A wide-open battle for the final 1 or 2 roster spots, and a Brandon Cooks reunion that feels less like a question of if and more a question of when. Since the Stephon Diggs trade turned this receiver room upside down, it has been nothing but questions in Buffalo, trades, waiver claims, dart throws that didn't pan out. DJ Moore represents the franchise's biggest, most direct answer yet. The question now is simply whether it's finally truly the right one. So here's what we want to hear from you, Bills Mafia. Do you believe DJ Moore is about to have the best season of his career now that he's finally playing with Josh Allen? Is Khalil Shakir about to become a true number 2 threat once this offense stops boxing him in? And are you as worried about Josh Palmer's health as we are? Sound off in the comments below. We read every single one. If this breakdown had you nodding along or yelling at your screen, smash that like button right now, because it genuinely helps this channel reach more of Bills Mafia. And if you haven't subscribed to the Bills Report yet, now is the time, because we're covering every single storyline in this receiver room, every roster battle, and every twist all the way through training camp and into the 2026 season. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Go Bills!
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.